The distance formula is a central part of a circle, okay? So I want to show you where it comes from. I would like you to write this derivation down. This is the distance formula. It just gives you the distance between any 2 points on a Cartesian coordinate system. Here's how you develop this. So what I want you to do is just draw yourself like an XY thing, okay? Just XY axis, and let's put 2 dots. Let's call that one P, and over here somewhere, let's call that one Q. And I'm just going to give these names. Like this first point, I'm going to say that's X1, Y1. And point Q, I'm going to say that is X2, Y2. So we're just developing the formula. And this is actually a real easy derivation to do. So the idea is what we're going to do is we're going to find the distance between those 2 points. So I'm just going to label that line segment D like that. So I just arbitrarily pick points and give them those names, okay? If you were going to find the distance between 2 points, here's how the formula gets developed. If you take this and go straight down like that, and then straight over like that, you're going to get a right triangle, right? Okay? So the idea is, here's what I want you to understand. What would the length of this base be based on how I use my variables? What is that the distance between? X values, right? So that would be X2 minus X1, okay? Or backwards, it doesn't matter the order. What would this be? That would be the distance between the Y's, so Y2 and Y1. So what you're doing is you're just finding how far apart those 2 numbers are. So what this is it's best to write this in absolute value. I'm just going to go how they do it in my formula. I'm going to do X2 minus X1. There's a reason why I do that in absolute value, because if you subtract it backwards, it'd give you a negative value. And you always want distances to be positive. Okay, then this side would be absolute value Y2 minus Y1 like that. Okay, from your background, how do the 3 sides in any right triangle relate to each other? By a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the Pythagorean theorem. Good. So it goes like this. What you would do is take this side squared, okay, so that base would be this squared. Then you would say plus the other side. And that's always equal to the square of the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is D. That's the longest side like that. Everybody know that? Okay. So now that's not D. That should be D squared. Okay. How do you solve this equation for D? How do you make that square go away? Square root both sides, right? Okay. So what we do is we just square root both sides. And when we get that, this is what will happen. Of course, this side's going to be D. And you don't put the plus or minus like you're used to because it's a distance. And distance is always positive, so you don't worry about that. And then the other thing is if you square any number, you don't need the absolute value. Absolute value just guarantees it's positive, but then when you square it, you're going to be guaranteed it's positive anyway. So typically the way we write the distance formula is like this. Okay, it's real simple to go through and find distance between 2 points. But that's where it comes from, okay? If you ever forget the distance formula, you can plot your points and make it into a triangle, and you can easily figure it out. Okay? So I'm going to crunch out number 2, then I'll let you crunch out number 3. And so what we're going to do on this, we're just going to go directly to that distance formula. So what you do is you find the distance between the x values. It's up to you which order you put that in. So I'm just going to go -4, subtract -8, and then square it. Okay, then I go through and I look at the y values and do the same thing. Doesn't matter the order, so I'm going to go -2 minus 1 squared like that. Okay, so you're just doing the hypotenuse of the right triangle. So it looks like that's going to give square root, and this thing right here would be -4 plus 8. So that should be 4 squared. And then the other one would be like -3 squared. So that would be plus 9 then. Okay. So it looks like my answer to this problem is going to be this. It would just be square root of 16 plus 9. That's square root of 25. So that's equal to 5. Okay? And if you look at this thing right here, I don't know how many of you guys know this for your background. I know a lot of you do. But the distance between those 2 numbers right there ended up being 4 and 3 there. A lot of you know the 3, 4, 5 right triangle from your background. Okay? If you don't, that's okay. But that's kind of a special triangle. Okay, go ahead and do the next one. Just go ahead and crunch it out. I'll leave it up there and give you a minute to do that. The thing that happens on distance formula sometimes is you also have to simplify the radicals like we've learned how to do. So you want to be totally on top of that too. Okay, we got anything? I don't want a decimal, I just want a simplified radical. Anybody got anything? Just say it. 104? Yeah, that's what I got. And you can't do anything with 104. It doesn't have any perfect square factors in it. So the idea with this one is, you end up really with that distance is -10, that distance is -2, so it's 100 plus 4, and then you end up with square root of 104. And remember what you're looking for on this was you would be looking for numbers that have perfect squares. If you divided that by 2, you would get 52. And then if you divide that by 2, you would have 20. Whoa, hold on. Have I got that?
Should be 2 root.
Yeah, okay, it does reduce. I didn't see that, but now I do. Okay, let me finish that up. If you just take your calculator and do this is worth knowing. It's real easy to tell if a number divides by 4. If you can divide something in half 2 times, then it divides by 4. So 104 divided by 2 is 52. 52 divided by 2 is 26. So I know it divides by 4. I just didn't catch that when I was doing that. So again, if I do 104 divided by 4 on my calculator, that's going to give 26. So what you really should do is you should break this down into square root of 4 times square root of 26, and then you would have 2 times the square root of 26. That's what you need to have, okay? All right, some of you catch that? Okay, always be on the lookout for that. Try to find perfect square factors when you do that. Okay, so that's distance formula. That's central to the idea of an equation of a circle. Okay, you want to kind of get an idea of where this comes from. So the next thing we're going to look at is the standard form of a circle is given like this. It's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The center is hk, the radius is r. Okay, I'm going to show you where this comes from. All right, so I'm going to have you do a little derivation on this. So here's what I want you to do here. All right, the idea is let's just put a dot somewhere, and that's going to be the center of the circle. Now we're going to use hk. That's just kind of the standard on circles. So just put a dot there, call that hk. All right. Then what we want to do is let's just kind of draw a circle around that, like that. And then let's pick a point on here. It doesn't matter where that point is on there. And let's call that point on that circle xy. Okay? And then always, if you join the center to a point on the circle, then you got a radius. So that's what a circle is. It's just a fixed point center, a fixed distance radius. You just all the points that are equally distant from the center. That's what makes a circle then. So basically the way you would get the equation of this is you would do the distance formula. Okay, so what we're going to do is just take the distance formula we just learned. That distance between those 2 points is the radius, right? So what we'd end up getting is we would get the radius is equal to the square root, and then you want to go ahead and apply that distance formula. So we're going to look at the distance between the x's, so that's x minus h squared. We're going to look at the distance between the y's, and I'm going to do it in this order so it matches the standard form. So we go like that. Okay, everybody see what I'm doing there? I'm doing distance formula. How do you make that radical go away? You square both sides. Okay, you square both sides to get rid of a radical, so I'm going to square that, and then boom, there's your answer. So it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, like that. That's the standard form of a circle, okay? All right, everybody follow what I did there? Okay. All right, that's where that comes from. Now, what we're going to do on this, mostly for a few minutes, what we're going to do is kind of get familiar with that standard form, do some of the real basic stuff here first. So just to get you understanding the formula, okay, the idea on the next page is I give you a radius and I give you the center. You give me the equation, okay? Well, all you do is you just take this. The radius is 3. That's going to plug in there. H is 0. That plugs in there. K is 0 like this. This one you can do in your head. So the answer you would have is, first of all, you'd have x minus 0 squared, and you don't have to write that down because you can do this all in your head, equals 3 squared. So what's the simplest answer? X squared plus y squared equals 9, right? Okay, so that would be the equation of a circle that has a radius of 9, like that. Okay, if I give you the center and radius, the general formula will give you the general formula for that circle. Okay, the next one's the same way. We got radius is 7, h is -4, k is -7. So the way this would go, and you can do this in your head, I'm going to write this intermediate step, but it's x minus -4 squared plus y minus -7 squared equals 7 squared. Now you don't want to multiply it out or anything, you just want to leave it in this form. So that would be written as x plus 4 squared plus y plus 7 squared is equal to 49. Okay, and that's it. Okay, everybody follow what I'm doing? That's simple. Let's plug in numbers into the formula. Go ahead and do number 7 and simplify it. Just kind of keep it in that standard form. Okay, the radius is square root of 11, center is -7, -10. So I'm going to make sure that you can do this, then we'll kind of begin to work with these things kind of in the reverse order here. Okay, so what happens to the radical when you square the radius?
Goes away.
Goes away, thank you. Okay, so we have x plus 7 squared. Then I have plus y plus 10 squared is equal to 11. Okay, so that would be your standard form for that circle. All right, everybody okay with that? That's real straightforward, okay? A lot of the stuff we start off on these sections is kind of the basics, and then it'll be a little bit. Circles usually are not too bad for students to catch on to. All right, next page. Now, the next thing we want to learn how to do is I'm given a graph of a circle, and we're going to write the equation of the circle based on the graph that I give you. Again, this is an exercise to help you understand the general form. Okay, so in this first one, what's the center of the circle? 0, 0, right? The radius, what's the radius? 3. Yeah, you're going over 3 for your radius, like that. Okay, so if you plug this into your standard form, it would go like this. You would have x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to 3 squared. So that answer would be x squared plus y squared equals 9. Okay, like that. Now, you don't have to do that intermediate step. I'm just showing you when you plug that in the formula, that's what you'd end up getting. Okay? All right? See if you can get the answer to B. That one I tried to make up so it's pretty easy to see what the center and what the radius is. Okay? Just write down what the center and radius is, and then you can write down your answer. Okay? You can do your answer in your head too. I'm fine with that. So let's see, what is the center? Is that -1, 3? Okay, what's the radius? Is that 4? Okay, so your answer, you can now do this in your head, it would just be x minus -1. So it's x plus 1 squared, y minus 3 squared, and then you do the radius squared, so you get 16. Okay, that's what you should come up with. Everybody comfortable with that? Okay, all right, very good. Now, what we're going to do next here is we're going to move on to what we call the midpoint formula, because sometimes when you're working with, lots of different varieties of applications and stuff, a lot of times you need to know the midpoint. Now, this thing did not transfer onto your paper very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of try to show you what I intended. And I think this is what I intended. I think I intended for that to be a 6. I think I intended for that to be a -7. And then probably, let's see, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. So I think this is what I'm thinking I intended. All right, so let's see, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gotta hope I got this right. Okay, so that center, I think my intention was that for to be 3, -3. Just all the little dots didn't show up on that. Okay, I also intended this point right there to be 6, -3, I'm pretty sure. And then this point over here, I probably meant for that to be -2, -3 like that. And I think I'm okay. Let's see, yeah. I don't know.
I think the origin's supposed to be 2.
What's that? Which one?
I think the origin's supposed to be 2.
Yeah, I think the origin's off a little. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's kind of, they weren't matching up right. Okay. If I give you a problem, you know, on my math lab and everything, it'll be pretty clear. Okay. So we got that. Now I've got the distances before. Yeah, you're right. That's what it was intended to be. So sorry about that. Okay. So here's what kind of happens on this is, now in this particular problem, let's go through like this. Well, let's just forget, let's do this. This is kind of what I intended to do anyway, is when you do the midpoint, what you're given on this is, that is a diameter. So a diameter, remember, is all the way across the circle. It goes through the center like that. What's a radius in relation to a diameter? It's half the diameter, right? Okay. So since I'm showing you the midpoint formula, well, that's how you could get the center. My intention, I think, was to give you those 2 points right there. When you do the midpoint, and the midpoint formula is real logical, all you're doing is you're just averaging the x values and you're averaging the y values. So how do you average 2 numbers? You add them up and divide by 2, right? That's what that midpoint formula says. Add the x's up and divide by 2. That is averaging, see? So what you would do is you would take your two x values, -2 plus 6 over 2, and then -3 plus -3 over 2. That would give 4 over 2. That would give -6 over 2. So that would be 2, -3. Okay, and that's what I kind of was trying to figure out in my head anyway. So that gives me the point 2, -3 like that. Okay, so we now got our center. Okay, now the radius. Now you could easily count on the radius. I understand you could count the radius, but if that was like at a diagonal, you would have to use the distance formula to find that distance there. Now since the y values are the same, then that radius is the distance from 6 and 2, so that radius is 4. It's also the distance from 2 and -2, radius is 4. So if you can do that in your head, that's okay. If you can't do it in your head, then what you do is you just apply the distance formula, okay? All right, so the answer to the problem would then be this, okay? We would say that's h, that's k, so we'd say x minus h squared plus y minus -3. So that's the plus 3 squared equals 4 squared. That's equal to 16. Everybody with me there? Because you want to be able to just do, once you have the center and radius, just put that and do that in your head. You don't need to multiply it out. That's the form that we're looking for on the problem. Okay? All right. Any questions so far? Okay? Very good. Okay? So let's look at this one. I'm going to let you kind of put this one together. First of all, let's plot the points, and I do want you to kind of work on this one yourself for a few minutes. So we're going to go over 6 and down 2, okay, and that's going to be where my first dot is. So that's 6, -2. Okay, then I've got -4, 4. So you're going to go left 4 and then up 4. Okay, and then I'm going to just kind of draw a circle around that. Doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of get the idea of a circle. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do is try to finish the problem. So now it's a little hard to just tell by looking on this one. How would you find the center? What did I just do? Midpoint formula. Do the midpoint formula to find the center. And then the radius, what you're going to do on the radius is you're going to use the distance formula from that center. Once you get the center, whatever it is, don't go by looks, then do the distance formula to one of those points. It doesn't make any difference. You could also do the distance between those two things and cut it in half. So you could do the distance formula between those 2 points and take half of it to get the radius. Okay, take a couple minutes and see if you can get that one reasoned out, okay? And I'm going to shut this off for a minute, and if you get those 2 points and get that written down, you should be able to do that if you know how to do the midpoint formula and the distance formula, okay? What do you got for the center?
1, 1.
Okay, 1, 1 is your center. Have you got anything on the radius yet? I didn't get 5. Anybody get anything different than 5? Now the way I did this is I did the distance between 1, 1 and 6, negative 2. I applied the distance for it. I got square root of 34. Anybody get that? Nobody got square root of 34? Perhaps the teacher's wrong. Let me look. I'm getting 34 unless I'm like totally spacing out here. Are you guys doing anything tonight? Some of you got your computers up, okay? I don't like seeing those computers up. You can do that outside of class. So let's get those computers away. All right, now this is what I got on here. So 1, 1, I did the midpoint formula to get that, okay? So I've got 1, 1, and then what I did to find the radius is I just found the distance between those 2 points, okay? And see, I did the distance formula. So I did 6 minus 1 squared, then negative 2 minus 1 squared. So that should be 5 squared plus 3 squared. So that's going to be 34. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, when we get the answer to the problem, the answer is going to go like this. We're going to say x minus 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared. And that's going to be equal to, when you square the radius, what are you going to get? You're going to get 34. Okay? Are you okay with that 34? Nobody's saying anything. Yeah, go ahead.
So when I was trying to do the distance formula, I was using the 2 points from up there.
Now what you can do is, you got several choices. If you want to find the radius, you can either use the distance formula on that. If you do it on the 2, then you would get an answer and divide it by 2.
Oh, so you're using the center.
Yeah, I'm using the center. The radius is the distance from the center to that point. All right? Is everybody clear on that? Okay. So that's what you would want to do. See, that one you can't go by looks on, so you got to go through and do that. Okay? Any questions about what I did? All right, that's a good way to approach that problem, is by doing that. Okay, we're going to do this a little bit backwards, real simple here, and then we'll get into some things with completing the square and so forth. Now, if you see something like this, now the intention would be that you could do this pretty easily in your head, but what this is really saying is x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to 9. So what's the center in this problem? 0, 0. We're going backwards. Now, this is not the radius because that's r squared, right? So if you have r squared equals 9, what is r? Okay, that's 3, because you can do square root of both sides. So you get the radius is 3. So what I'm doing now is I'm just doing everything in reverse. You're given an equation for a circle. You want to be able to find the center and radius, okay? And you want to be able to do that in your head. Okay, this one goes like this. Now, you don't have to write this down, but that's really saying x minus negative 1 squared plus y minus 10 squared equals 16. Okay, tell me what the center is. Thank you, negative 110. Okay, it goes like that. Now what you can do on this is you just kind of learn to do, you can think of what makes that 0. Negative 1 makes that part 0. 10 makes that 0. Therefore, your center is negative 110. And that comes from the standard form like that then, so that would be your center. So that's negative 110. What's the radius? It's not 16. What is it? It's 4 because that's r squared. So now if we put that away, we're going to get r is equal to 4 like that. Okay? All right? Let's look at this next one, and then on this next page, we'll kind of begin to do some of the completing the square stuff where it's a little bit more work involved. By looking at that, can you tell me what the center is? 0, negative 2, okay? And again, you don't have to write this down. I just want you to see that that's x minus 0 squared. That's really y minus negative 2 squared, like that. So your center comes from the 0, negative 2, okay? You just want to do that in your head. So that's 0, negative 2. What's the radius? 7. Okay, good. Everybody with me then? Okay? Kind of done the simpler parts of circles right now. You do have to use the midpoint formula sometimes if you're given a diameter. That's the purpose of that. Okay, look at number 14 on the next page. Tell me what looks different about that problem versus the 3 I just did. There's a 3 in front of stuff, right? That's not in standard form. In standard form, you don't want anything in front of the parentheses. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide each key piece of this problem by 3, okay? So that would just give you x minus 6 to the second plus y plus 5 to the second is equal to 4, okay? Now, in your head, what's the center? 6, negative 5. What's the radius? 2, good, okay? Once you can kind of catch on to how those signs go, it's pretty easy to do, okay? All right, now let's see, we're going to do a little bit of graphing. So that kind of wraps up just kind of activities to get you comfortable with the general form, the standard form of that. So this one, again, we're just going to graph this. Okay, so this one, what would the center be on number 15? 1, negative 1, and what would the radius be? 2, okay? So what you do is you just start by plotting the center, okay? Just go 1, negative 1, that'll be your center. I'm just going to call that C. And then if the radius is 2, what I would do is I would just go to the right 2, put a dot. I would go up 2 from the center, put a dot. Go to the left 2, and I would go down 2 and just do the best I can to draw a circle, okay, like that. That's it. So the thing is, if you have the center and you have the radius, then it's real simple to draw a graph. Is that a function? Is a circle a function? No. Is it a one-to-one function? No. Okay. All right. So the next one, what's the center? Okay, 2, 0. Okay. And that, what's the radius? 3. Okay, good. So we just do the same thing on this. We draw the center like that. And then what you want to do is just go over 3, 1, 2, 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3 up, 1, 2, 3 to the left, 3 down, and then you can sketch that in. The way you do this on MyMathLab is they have a circle tool. So what you do is you click your mouse on the center, you click your mouse on a point on the circle, and it'll automatically draw the circle. That's how it works out. Real simple, okay? Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit different on the next page. So what this is the general form, and you probably should write, you don't have to write this down. I'm just going to explain what it is, I guess. So the standard form is what I just taught you. The general form is if it's all multiplied out. So what you have is that would be like the x minus 8 squared plus y minus k squared all multiplied out, okay? So we got to put this in standard form because that's the only way that you're going to find the center and radius, okay? So what you end up doing on this, basically, go ahead. Yeah.
Our packets are messed up.
Okay, what's going on? Did the copy machine eat something? Usually it happens to my copy machine and it eats stuff sometimes.
It goes from 16.
All right. We don't have too much more to do on this. Let's, because we need to go over this. So, okay, I guess the copy machine ate that page and then this page.
We have it. It's just 3 pages deep.
What?
It gave us 2 additional pages, so we do have it in the packet. It's just
somewhere else.
I printed this off at work.
Okay, so it is in there?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. Okey doke, okay?
It was very generous to us. It gave us 2 more pages.
Okay, I got you. That was generous. Okay. Okay, so this one, what we're going to do is we're going to do what we call completing the square on this. Okay, so what we have is you want to write this kind of together like this, and we're going to do some completing the square on this. Okay, so we have x squared here. You want to put all of the x's together. So we have x squared minus 6x, put a parenthesis around like that. Then we have y squared minus 10y, like that, put a gap there. And what you want to do is move that 25 to the other side, so that's equal to negative 25 like that. Okay? Always start, because what you're going to put this in the standard form. So group your x's, group your y's, move the number to the other side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square on this then. Okay? All right? So let's go through and how we complete the square. We learned how to do this before. What do you do with the 6? You take half of it, which gives you negative 3. Then what you do is you square that to get the perfect square 9. You do that in your head. Take half of that number to get 3, square that to get a 9, and you're going to put the plus 9 there, right? Now, I just changed the problem, so how do I keep from changing the problem? I add a 9 on the other side, right? Okay? Then I do the same thing over here. Okay, that number right there, negative 10, you're going to do negative 10 over 2 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. Okay, so we have a plus 25 there. I need to do what to the other side? Subtract 25, right? Okay, so I do that. So just to balance it out, we need to have minus 25 like that then. Okay, so I think I got everything okay on there. So I've done half of 10 is 5, 5 squared is 25.
Why did we add the 9 to the right side on the...
That should have been, oh, hold on. What's the teacher doing here? Okay, you want to keep it in balance here. Okay, that should be, the reason we did that, I made a mistake. That was a simple mistake. That, if you add 9 there, you got to add 9 there. If you add 25 there, what do? You got to add 25. Okay, I put a minus there. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so we do that. Okay, all right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to factor this. Okay, is everybody okay with what I did there on completing the square? Okay, we did that previously when we were doing quadratic equations. So now if you factor this, you're going to end up having this. You'll have x and x, 3 and 3, and you'll have 2 minus signs. Those things are always going to end up being the same factor, which is why we complete the square, by the way. Okay, so it goes like that. Okay, then the next one goes like this. We're going to have y minus 5, y minus 5. So that's going to give y minus 5 to the second. And then what's the right side?
9.
It's 9 because the 25s cancel out. Okay, so now what's the center? 3, 5, right? The center is right here. The center of the circle is right there. And then what's the radius? 3. Because remember that 9 is r squared. So if r squared is 9, then r is going to be 3. Okay? So we have the center 3, 5, have a radius of 3 like that. Okay? Now we can graph it. So does anybody have a question about how I did the math on completing the square? Is that okay? Okay? All right. Okay, so let's see. We just plot our center, 3, 5. So it's over 3, up 5. Okay, and then we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, just kind of the same thing. Up 3, left 3, down 3, and then sketch it in like that. Okay? All right, that's how you would do that problem then. All right? Everybody okay? Okay, you do the next one. I'm going to walk around because some of you aren't doing much tonight. You're just like this. Come on, let's get with it. Okay? Do it. Okay? So get busy. Do this next one. Follow what I just did. I want you to go to calculus and be ready. All right, so here's what happens. You should have done this. You have x squared minus 14x. Kind of put that together. And then plus y squared plus 14y then a gap, and you already got the negative 73 over here. So I did hear lots of people saying 49. That's good. Half of 14 is 7. 7 squared is 49. And then what you do to that side, you do exactly the same thing to that side to keep it balanced. This would turn out to be the same thing, wouldn't it? So you do that, okay? All right. Now, how does this one factor? This one should factor, you should have got x minus 7 squared. This one would factor as y plus 7 squared. And let's see, on the other side, what is that? Is that 25? I think is what that is. Okay. Okay, very good. So what's the center?
7, negative 7.
Oh, man, people are now talking. Good. What's the radius? 5. All right, very good. Okay, did you guys do that effectively? Okay. All right, now let's see. If you do your graph, okay, just go over 7, down 7, and you can just kind of estimate over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Okay, so there we go. All right. Okay, to me, that's the most difficult thing in this section. Most of it's just real straightforward, kind of drill on the basic ideas. Okay. All right, so let's move to this last page here, and a couple of things there. This problem right here, I just found something like this, and then I just want to put together the equation on this in just some sort of a situation. So what's going on this one basically is the diameter of this one is, it looks like, is 240 is the way I'm reading that. So it's just saying the distance from here to here through the center of the Ferris wheel to there is 240, okay? So if the diameter is 240, tell me what the radius is. 120, right, okay? So we'd end up having a radius of 120 feet like that. The other thing you've got to find is the center, okay? Once we figure out the center, we're in good shape. So let me ask you this question. What would be this distance from there to there? That'd be 120 also, wouldn't it? Exactly, okay? So what's the deal with the 9? Well, you got that extra 9 there, okay? So the center is going to be what point now? If you just look at what I drew there, what's the center going to be?
125.
It's going to be 0. X is 0. We're going to have the center right there in the x-axis. How high is that?
129.
Yeah, okay. So what happens on that then is that thing has been moved up 129. Okay, and that's the way I'm doing it, because I'm doing the center there, like that. So that point would be, or actually I'm doing like that, taking it from that point. So then what you would have is, that's 129, kind of a circle like that. That's the way I'm putting that together, okay? So then it looks like your center on this would be 0, 129. Now you're ready to put it together, okay? Because I'm kind of looking at this right here, just kind of moving that axis up like that, okay? So then the answer would be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 129 squared is equal to the square of the radius. So that would give x squared plus y minus 129 squared. Okay, and then we're going to do 120 squared. So that will be 14,400 like that. So that's the idea. Okay, just a little different situation. Okay, so I'm going to do one more thing, probably something like this. We've pretty well done about everything we need to do. This one is basically talking about this. You have a center and then you contain a point on this. Now, I'm not even going to draw a picture on this problem because you don't really have to graph this or anything. So what are the two things you have to know to get the equation of a circle? You got to know the center, right? I gave that to you, so we're good. What else do you got to know? Radius. How would you find the radius on this problem?
What's the distance?
There you go. It's distance. Good. The radius is always the distance from the center to a point on the circle. When that says containing a point, that means that's a point on the circle. So if we do the distance formula to find the radius, like we've done a couple of times, you would just subtract the x's. So you'd have negative 4, subtract negative 3 squared. Then you would have negative 3 minus 3 squared. So I'm subtracting x's, subtracting y's. So that's going to give r equals, and then that right there would be negative 4 plus 3. So that looks like negative 1 squared. That would be negative 6 squared. So it looks like the radius is square root of 1 plus 36. So it looks like that would be square root of 37. okay? So remember, you're always doing the distance from the radius to a point on the circle to get that radius. Okay, everybody clear there? Okay. Now it's easy to get the answer together here. What would the standard form be?
X plus 4 squared.
Very good. X plus 4 squared plus.
Y plus 3 squared.
Outstanding.
Equals 37.
There you go. Very good. Okay, do that in your head. Okay, write that out. Okay. All right. So that would be the answer to that problem then. All right. Is everybody okay with what I've done with circles?
I have a question on 21.
Oh, my crop circle thing? Yeah, what's your question?
No, I just questioned the question itself.
You questioned the question?
Yeah.
Oh, I just put that on there because I sometimes will catch television and there'll be, the History Channel is really the Ancient Aliens channel. And people claim all the time, man, that's so complicated, it has to be made by an alien. My point is, when you make a circle, all you got to do is put a stake in the center, have a piece of rope for your radius, and walk around, and it's pretty perfect. Okay? So anyway, let's take a break. Okay? That's not important. I just thought of that when I was putting this together. I actually think crop circles are made by people that know a lot about math. Human beings.